Well, spring is sprung and it is time for some spring cleaning. I pulled the engine from the darkness of the corner of the garage and I'm starting to pull the bits and bytes off of it that I can get it to the machine shop. Here Jade is pulling off the water pump and will then move on to the drive belt tensioner and auxiliary shaft cover. We'll leave the crank pulley bolt for the machine shop for when they get into the engine's innards. Overall, the engine is in pretty good shape for a 40-year-old motor. She needs some TLC, but the block is in good shape. The cylinders aren't scored and there's no indication of any oil leaks or damage. She's off to the shop where they will pull the pistons and crank and give me a final assessment to any extra work she'll need. I'm putting in some fresh, new 85mm high compression pistons, so it's going to get rebored, 2 passes required as per the machinist, and with some street performance cams, valves, and springs, she should be ready to run around the neighborhood more quickly than she ever has. In the interim, it's back to finishing up the bodywork. These pieces on the rear quarter panels are a bit of an issue for me. I've intended for them to be bolted or screwed in as original, but ended up welding them in instead. So, a bit of a Frankenstein's monster maybe, but they are solid in place and, fingers crossed, the rear tires won't kick up anything that will cause me to regret this decision. Here, I need to make a relief cut on the driver's side for a better fit. Interested to see how it'll all look when I get the final paint and polish done. But before that, I installed the refurbished rear brakes. This is compressed down from the hour that it took me for both sides. It attaches easily with a couple of bolts, and the caliper itself is fitted with a couple of clip springs and wedges. I lubricated the wedges and the pads, but will probably end up needing to tweak some adjustments once I pressurize the system with brake fluid. Best practice, it seems, is to put the bottom wedge in place and then use gravity and a thin screwdriver to open up enough room to wedge into the top. Of course, be sure the clip spring is properly seated as well as the retaining clips and you're good to go. Or stop, in this case. There's a bit of an issue that the brake line needs to be attached to that shielding. It's a 13-inch diameter and I'm putting on 15-inch wheels. I'll have to figure something out. And then we just get stupid. My tiny garage is now an even tinier paint booth. Basically, just a plastic box with the air being vacated using a spark-proof fan and a couple of furnace filters to keep the dust, etc., from flowing onto my paint job. Needless to say, I've got to get a bit better organized. I'm using a direct-to-metal high-build primer as a base before the upcoming Herculean task of body filler, and then a couple of coats of primer again. It's expensive stuff, but goes on easily, and it feels good to have the bare metal fully sealed up. FYI, this is what $50 worth of primer looks like. Seems to me that every time I try to rush things, like mixing paint, it ends up just costing me more time and money. Slow and steady. I'm learning. For a small car, it has a massive hood. If you're working on one for yourself, have a good look at the hinge attachment points. This side was good, but the other side had some serious metal fatigue, cracks that needed some welding repair. The body itself was easy to paint, though I did spend a significant amount of time doing a final strip, clean, and scuffing of the metal, and at least a couple of hours getting it all taped up. I put it up on some cribbing to get better access to the rocker panels and lower areas. Lots of lights in my little booth worked quite well. Again, this is just base DTM primer, so it doesn't need to be perfect. However, I realize that the booth is going to be too cramped for the color and clear coat, so I'm going to be doing that in a rented, dedicated spray booth. But I'm not too disappointed. It'll keep the sanded body filler dust off my tools and other garage junk, as well as the final couple of coats of primer. The car will be as prepped as possible, minimizing my time and dollars spent elsewhere. Anyway, that's where we are now. Should have the engine back from the machine shop next month, and the body freshly painted and ready for it.